Instead of delaying your Canadian pension plan to age 70, why not take it at age 60 and invest it? Aren't you going to be better off and you control your money? Well, in this video, I want to break that down, show you numbers in our software to see if this actually makes sense. A lot of you implement this strategy, you start collecting your Canadian pension plan at 60, you take that money, you put it into either an RSP or a non-registered or maybe a TFSA account, and you build that over time, you build this extra nest egg, and you're better off. Or are you better off? Let's break down the numbers. Before we jump into it, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I know a lot of you watch on a TV, it is a little bit harder, but take a second, pause the video, hit subscribe, join the community. We release 2 brand new videos around retirement, tax, and estate planning for Canadians every single week. I'm gonna run through a few scenarios here, but what we have is a 60-year-old single person making $85,000 a year. They have some assets already saved up, about $400,000 in RSP and $100,000 in a TFSA. And I've created this third asset class of CPP money. So as they collect CPP, we're gonna carve out that money into separate accounts so that we can actually see, is there a net benefit to this? As far as government benefits go, I've marked Mr. YouTube here at 95% of max. He's worked his whole life, he's saved, he's paid into it, he's had good earnings. At 65, he'll collect 95%. But again, I have the start age at age 60. So as Mr. YouTube continues to work for 5 more years, he wants to take out CPP at 60, take that money and invest it. So I've created a few scenarios because all of you are in a different situation and I want to make sure you can kind of put pen to paper here and wrap your head around this. So scenario 1, he starts to collect his CPP at age 60 and he puts it into a non-registered investment. So his RSPs are maxed out, his TFSA is maxed out, and he puts it into the non-registered investments. Now, I get it. I don't have TFSA contributions going in. The RSP isn't that much compared to his income. I just want to show for simplicity how this asset would grow. I'll show you some other scenarios here shortly. So with the non-registered account, you can see a CPP payment the first year is $9,956, and that exact same amount of money is going into his non-registered account. Again, his CPP would be taxable, and you can see his marginal tax rate of 28.2%, but I'm just assuming he's putting the whole thing in and adjusting for the tax through his employment income, so that full amount's going in. We've left it going all the way through to age 69. At age 70, he's going to start drawing on that. So the idea here is really, instead of the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board looking after my assets, I'm gonna take it myself at 60, and for the next 10 years, I'm going to manage it. And then at 70, I'm going to turn on my own CPP and start still collecting my CPP I've been collecting, but actually start using it. And this extra bucket that I've been saving for the last 10 years is just another asset that I have control of that I can start drawing on. So you can see here at age 70, he starts collecting money out of that non-registered account. We've also, from age 65 onward, I've done an RSP meltdown. I want to create some tax strategy here, so we're looking at optimization. So we're drawing down that RSP, slowly drawing out of that additional CPP money pool. And at the end of the day, we're left with roughly $0, about $630 left in all the accounts. But what does that look like from an income standpoint? So again, he took CPP at 60, invested it for 10 years in a non-registered account. He needed $60,000, and this will be the same throughout all the scenarios. He needed that $60,000 of income while he's still working. But come 65 when he retires, if we maximize the income, not looking at a laddered income strategy, but just maximize how much income could we have, you can see there's $50,603. So if Mr. YouTube decided to use this strategy, take CPP at 60, invest the whole amount in a non-registered account, pay the tax bill from his CPP out of other employment income, but maximize that savings into the non-reg, carve out that account separately, you're looking at an income of about $50,603. Now looking at the exact same scenario, but the only difference here is I didn't do the RSP meltdown. A lot of you don't employ the meltdown. You just kind of draw out the minimum amount out of your RIF. And if he had done that, his income drops actually to $49,502. So again, just the RSP meltdown here adds $1,100 a year adjusted to inflation for the rest of his life to age 90. So that's a big adjustment here. So I want to show that. So not just the CPP, but the RSP meltdown here made a drastic impact for him as far as how much after-tax income he can collect. The next scenario I want to look at is the exact same, except for instead of putting that CPP money into a non-registered account, he had RSP room, and we've maximized the RSP room. So you can see that exact same $9,956. Instead of going into a non-registered account, we're going to put it in an RSP. The benefit with that is we're going to avoid the tax up front. We can grow that money tax deferred, and we're left out with, a decent amount of money at the end. Now, one thing I haven't highlighted here yet, and this is very, very important, is that I'm showing a rate of return of 10% on the CPP money. And why I'm showing it at 10% is because that's roughly the amount of return you're going to have to get to be even close in these scenarios. So all of the assets I have marked at 5%. I've marked the CPP money at 10%. As I run through these scenarios, I'll summarize it here at the end, but I'll also show you what 5% or 6% can mean for it. So as we look at building that CPP money into the RSP, you can see the difference at the end of the day. The income jumps from $50,600 up to $51,452. So it's about an extra $1,000 in his pocket by utilizing that RRSP versus the non-reg, just a tax savings over time. Now here's the kicker. Again, I was showing that at 10%, but if we want apples to apples, we need a guaranteed rate of return. Your CPP is guaranteed. So don't say, well, I can go get 10%. You probably can't consistently. There's a lot of risks there. Let's compare apples to apples. I wanted to show the 10% because I always will get the comments saying, yeah, Adam, but I can get 10%. So what does that look like? Well, I showed you. But here we're looking at 5%. Again, I think even a bit higher than what that guaranteed rate of return is today and going forward. But at a 5% rate of return on that CPP money, you can see the total income drops substantially. It drops to $47,109. So a lot lower, about $4,000 lower than that higher rate of return. And I honestly think this is the more realistic scenario because that rate of return is more of that apples to apples comparison. So what would happen if we just said, let's delay CPP all the way till 70? Well, you can see here, we've started CPP at 70. We've left the old age security at 65 to keep apples to apples comparison here. Again, we don't have that CPP savings account because we didn't do that strategy. We still did the meltdown, which looks a little bit different because we don't have that additional CPP account, but you can see the income, $51,724. So that's a huge difference. That's more than any other scenario, and we don't have to go get a 10% rate of return on our money. So if I delay my CPP till 70, don't have to take on any of that risk and stress of managing my money and getting that 10%. Again, even a 10% rate of return on that CPP money in an RSP underperformed what you would get on your CPP if you delayed it till 70. Again, this is total income. A lot of you look at CPP as a silo. You have to integrate it with all your income. So RSP, TFSA, CPP. Again, we carved out that CPP separately, so it's a separate savings account, grows on its own, but it's growing at 10% in an RSP, and it's still not able to keep up with delaying that CPP till 70. So for a lot of you looking at, well, I can do better with that money, controlling that money, you're going to have to get around 10 to 15% in order to outperform just delaying your CPP and not taking any of that risk. This comes up all the time with clients. And I had a client email me not long ago saying, I've had this conversation with a family member and he wants to take it at 60 and invest it, but I think 70 makes the most sense. Again, you can kind of converse all day long, but get the data into software like this and play with the numbers. Work with your financial planner to figure out what makes the most sense for you. I can't see a scenario where taking CPP and investing it makes the most sense. And again, some of you might sit there and say, yeah, but Adam, I invest in high yield dividend stuff and I'm getting 15, 18, 20%. But the principal is going down. Again, you have to structure this properly. You have to look at it from a clear state of mind. And a lot of you aren't considering how much more risk you're taking on. Again, delaying CPP is a risk-free investment that is providing, in essence, over a 10% rate of return versus doing it yourself. To me, that's a no-brainer. But again, a lot of you like to take on more risk and stress as you enter into retirement for some odd reason. Again, I'm the type, and I like to coach my clients on this, and that retirement should be enjoyable. It's about de-stressing, maximizing income, minimizing taxes, but also the psychological side of it, which is reducing stress, enjoying retirement. So you're saying, if I look at a scenario like this, and let's say Mr. YouTube took his CPP at 60 He had to manage that account, not just for the first 10 years, but beyond that, because he's withdrawing it. He needs 10% ongoing forever. That's stressful. I wouldn't want to take that on. I don't know why you would want to take that on either, but many of you are making that decision. I prefer to delay my CPP, get the most possible, and not worry about the stress of having to manage that account and get a 10+ rate of return on an annual basis to just meet what I could have done risk-free over on the other side of the coin. So when we look at CPP timing, I always tell our clients, I don't care when you take it, I care that you know the difference between taking it earlier or later, and then you can make that financial decision. For many of you watching this video, even after seeing something like this, you will still take your CPP at 60, and that's okay, as long as it doesn't ruin your retirement. You have to understand that taking CPP early is costing you thousands of dollars a year. Again, I understand it's a psychological decision, not a financial decision. If you're taking CPP at 60 for a financial decision, it's because you've retired, probably forcefully, because ideally you retire then at 65, but you've taken it early because you don't have a job, you no longer work, and you need that money, and that's okay. If you're in that situation where you actually physically need CPP, you need that income coming in, that's fine. But for a lot of you watching this video, most of you watching this video, that's not the case. You're taking CPP because you want control of that asset. But again, be careful what you wish for, because that rate of return that you require or the amount of money you're losing in income on an annual basis is quite substantial. So my encouragement for all of you is to kind of flip the switch on this. Move it from a psychological, emotional decision to a financial decision. Typically, most people that take their CPP early also have the, I want to pay CRA as little as possible. I mean, we all have that mentality, but definitely people that take CPP early have that, I want to give CRA $0 going forward in my lifetime. But taking CPP early also makes you pay more tax typically. It puts less money back in your pocket. There's less strategy. So again, run these numbers. I can't say that enough. So as we look at, does it make sense to take CPP early and invest it? If you can guarantee yourself 15%, it might. But for most of us, that's not around.